Hey everyone, it's me, Ian from the Postal Hub podcast.
And Marek from Last Mile Experts.
And we are the Last Mile Prophets, and we're already giggling because this is the third or fourth time we've tried to do this introduction. Today we want to talk about, guess what, Amazon, and guess what, in the Last Mile, it's all about, guess what, the US Postal Service. There was an
And
article,
Trump. Don't
and
forget Donald Trump.
well, let's throw Trump in there as well. Why not throw the President of the United States in there? The Postal Service is subsidising Jeff Bezos' quest to turn Amazon into a delivery machine that competes with UPS and FedEx, but USPS can't break up with Bezos. That was a headline from Rachel Premack's article I don't know if that's how you pronounce your surname, sorry. Is the Postal Service really subsidising Amazon? There's a whole discussion here about what the PRC does and all those sorts of things. But what's interesting is that this article provoked a response. Marek, did you see the response?
Indeed, it did, by Mr. Dave Clark himself.
And Dave Clark...
Uninitiated, Dave Clark is a member of the S team, the closest buddies of Mr. Bezos.
So, not Dave Clark, the jazz musician, but Dave Clark from Amazon, who said, in response to the comment, it's 4 times as expensive to deliver a package to a home in rural America than one in the city. Dave Clark's response was, nope, no it isn't, not even close. Shall we take that as a denial, Marek? Is it reading between the lines?
I think so. But you know what? I mean, let's get to the more serious stuff. The reality is it doesn't need to be. It can be if it's badly managed. And regrettably, I suspect in some cases, and perhaps in the US, it isn't managed as it could be. But I'm not sure it's 4 times anyway.
It's got to be a multiple. I mean, we just know that USPS is a vast... The USA is a vast country. The USPS has to deliver to every door in the country. And not everybody's around the corner from Amazon Fulfillment Center. So it will cost more. But this commentary about it being, what would you say, 1.5 to 4 times more expensive. 4 does seem expensive. I suppose if you're delivering to some remote part of Alaska, it's possible.
Well, that's just what I was thinking. Yeah, but you know what, Ian? I think, again, it's a question of how you do it because remember, we're doing quite a lot of work on what's happening in the Nordics. And in the Nordics, for example, where you have similar distances.
Very low population density, yeah.
Way off the beaten track. And you either have PUDOs in some area that's inhabited, or you have multiple post boxes next to each other in a convenient location for the posting. So, there's a lot that can be done. Not to mention the fact that actually, if people worked together more and the postal network, which is quasi-open in the States, could be really opened up.
Yeah. There's a comment in this article. I just want to mention this really quickly. There's a comment in this article that said, well, they're only using the US Postal Service, I'm paraphrasing here, only using the US Postal Service until they get drones off the ground to deliver. I mean...
Well... Although I'm a fan of drones, I have to agree with you here. Not for a long, long time.
They're not going to be zipping about delivering Amazon packages. But I want to get into a little bit of this because we hear this discussion all the time that the USPS is subsidising Amazon. I don't actually think that's really the case. And that Amazon it's taking volumes away from the US Postal Service to give to its own DSPs, the delivery service partners. But volumes are growing so much that see what I'm getting at here?
If someone really did the maths, in the current environment, if Amazon stopped using USPS, they'd be in trouble because they got fixed costs. They have to keep those post offices. And if the volumes dropped, let's be honest, quite significantly from day to day, that wouldn't be a good solution. I think it's not so clear cut. The other thing is, part of the issue is actually how USPS is managing its infrastructure and its costs. It's a wider issue of totally open networks or not. And, as I mentioned in my LinkedIn post, for me, the key thing is they should be looking at an infrastructure play far more, and that could change the whole picture.
The Postal Service in the USA and pretty much every post in the world is obliged to deliver to, if not every address every day, but something similar, okay? And hence them becoming the deliverer of last resort, which I think is how a previous Canada Post CEO put it. You become the deliverer of last resort. So this idea that Amazon is taking advantage of the US Postal Service, I think is a little bit of a misconception, because every e-commerce seller who uses the Postal Service to reach remote addresses in any country is taking advantage of the Postal Service. I mean, in other words, they're using it. I mean, I don't know. Am I getting the wrong end of this, Marek, or am I?
No, I think Ian, you're absolutely right. And the issues are more about, in my view, how to restructure and improve carriers, postal carriers like the USPS, rather than the issue being with Amazon. If the USPS was doing everything right, it would be a lot more difficult for Amazon to take advantage. The second thing, and I think this is important because everyone always panics about Amazon. If you look at it, roughly half of the volumes in the network are managed by Amazon and half by independent carriers. When I say independent, including the Post. And that's typical. And Amazon is super smart. They will, in my view, never give 100% of the volume to their own DSPs, because if something goes wrong, if there is
because they've been burnt before. They were not burnt, but they had the experience a few years ago where there were capacity issues. Was it UPS? They had the big capacity issues, or FedEx, one of the big carriers. I'm sorry, I can't remember which one had big capacity issues at peak time. They couldn't deliver on their promise. And what does it you always say? If you want to partner with Amazon in the last mile, you've got to be able to deliver on that promise.
Absolutely, and I think, Ian, this is the big issue. They're always going to want some backup. And what you mentioned when we started out, that because the cake is getting so much bigger, even if you have part of the cake, there's a degree of compensation.
Let me just ask a quick question before we finish. This is an ongoing discussion in postal circles. The parcels are competitive. Letters are often a monopoly service. When it comes to parcels, nobody wants to compete in rural areas. When I say nobody, I mean very few carriers want to deliver to Oodnadatta, which is in a remote part of Australia, or the equivalent in whatever nation, all right? So what happens could it happen, with the last mile profits here, let's look into the future, could it happen that there's so much competition in metro areas that really the postal operators, whether it's the US Postal Service or Australia Post or whoever, just gets left with the crumbs and has to deliver to rural areas? What would that mean? Could it happen, do you think?
Listen, I mean, never say never. Everything could theoretically happen. But my view is it's all about two things. Number one, if they want to carry on with the full range of services, how customer-centric can they be? And are they prepared to change? Are they prepared to jettison their legacy thinking? If not, then there is an issue. And then the only option is an infrastructure play where they effectively provide an infrastructure for other carriers to use it. And that way they get the synergy. You
mentioned legacy thinking, and I said we're going to wrap up, but we've got a little bit of time left. Legacy thinking. A new Postmaster General's coming in at the USPS. I just want to make a brief parallel with our friends over at Royal Mail. They are investing a huge amount, I think it's £1.8 billion in their parcel delivery network to try and make it more customer-centric and introduce better technology and all of that. Could we see something similar happen in the US? And the new leadership, do you reckon they're going to pour the money in and make it, and make it a first class in every respect, not just the human face, but the technological aspect of things, make it really first class all round?
First of all, the irony is it doesn't need that much money. The issue is here, not in your wallet. Right. It's about really doing smart things.
Good news for Mnuchin at US Treasury. That's up here, not in the wallet. Anyway, go on quickly.
So, I'm not saying, of course, Ian, that it doesn't cost anything, but it's primarily about thinking and vision, not about the money itself, because there are asset-light ways of doing things. So, first of all, let's, by the way, see how it goes at Royal Mail, because Rico Back was very well known, the current CEO, he was very well known at GLS for being very much, focused. You can have any color as long as it's black, very standardized, which isn't the way B2C is going. So let's see how Royal Mail develops. I think this could be a really cool subject, actually, for another video where we talk about the posts and what they're doing.
And cultural change, which is really sort of at the heart of what we're talking about. We've run out of time. Marek Rajecki from Last Mile Experts, thanks for being part of it today.
Thanks, Ian. Thank you, everybody. Hey everyone, hope you enjoyed this episode of The Last Mile Profits.
Make sure you subscribe, hit the subscribe button and also the notifications bell so you get a notification every time we add a new video to this channel. Look forward to sharing more stuff with you on The Last Mile Profits.